Hey, folks. As always, the ever-present EV Mux issues have occurred, but they don't seem to be terribly bad this time. Uh, for those of you who have been here before and are familiar with the channel, you will probably notice that this is not the T-shirted historian. This is, in fact, Grim, who was kind enough to bop in at the very last second. Um, historian apparently had some stuff. Uh, and so we are eternally grateful. Thank you very much. Um, yeah, so on we go. We are going to be talking today about D&D, the subject I usually abhor and try and avoid. But I thought it might be interesting to look at different editions. I've gotten a lot of questions about what is it about 5e that I don't like, and what is it about the earlier editions I do like. I thought it might be interesting to kind of go over all the editions. I have not played all the editions. I haven't even read at least one of them. So I thought it would be fun to put together a panel of people who know all the sections I don't, and kind of look at how there's been a power creep over the years, differences, and at least in my opinion, where things kind of started to go terribly off the rails. We will do intros first. Neil, if you want to start, you have returned to the channel after a long hiatus, and we are happy to have you back.
I have. It's great to be here. For folks who don't know me, my name is Neil Litherland. Maybe you've come across some of my work. I have, since I last showed up on the channel, I hit my 200 supplement goals that have my name in the title, so I'm pleased for that. But you might also have come across my blog of either The Literary Mercenary or Improved Initiative, the latter being where I do all my game talk. And if you see me bopping around YouTube, I'd probably be over on the Azakale Games YouTube channel. So if you haven't
Yeah,
seen those, go check them out. If you have, yeah, then thank you very much.
yeah. Neil is an incredibly prolific writer. The fact that you managed to get like so many very long blog posts about so many interesting topics done, yeah, I'm jealous.
I don't have a farm to take care of, so that helps.
Uh, you're also younger than I am, and apparently more focused. So,
Yeah, you think I'm younger than you are. I don't know if we've checked or not.
uh, you're younger than I am. I promise.
All right, if you insist, I'll let you have it.
Grim.
Hello. Yes, I am a game designer and videographer, I guess you could say. I create and sell my own games at post-mort.com, and I've freelanced for a lot of people. I worked on third edition, a little bit on fourth edition,
I'm sorry.
and some third-party stuff for fifth edition. So I should have a fairly reasonable spread of experience here.
All right. And then we have Matt, who is a personal friend of mine from the real world, and who is absolutely going to school me on 3.5 because I don't know anything about it.
Probably. I mean, I hope that my knowledge matches up. But yeah, hey, I'm Matt. I play games. That's all I do. That's my claim to fame. I don't. I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't make things. I just play them. So hi.
I mean, if it weren't for the players of the world, the rest of us would have absolutely nothing to do.
Just
So,
saying, yeah, we need folks like you. Otherwise, it's just us doing this in the dark.
Consume more.
Chances are very good if anybody has made a Kickstarter involving D&D. I have probably backed you.
and a lot of Monty Cook stuff too, I think.
Yes, yes. We can just say role playing games in general. I have backed you.
Um, but yeah, I do think, there tends to be a lot of YouTube videos around GM advice and around creators, and I think the players often kind of get forgotten in the like, hey, if it weren't for the audience, none of this would happen. So hopefully we can. What's one of the reasons I wanted to do these topic panels was a little bit to kind of get back to. I wanted to do some GM advice stuff, but I also wanted to get back to like, look, here are the people you actually make these things for. I wanted to say hello to the chat. Ben, near as I can see, Ben was here first. He insists that Legatus was here earlier, but I cannot see those details, so Ben gets credit anyway. We have Hanayama-san, who is finally able to rejoin the world with his new computer system. I'm very jealous. I hope it's going
Yay.
well. We have Uncle Martin Sucks at Gaming. A wild giant appears. You have no idea how long I just stared at that comment and went, I don't understand, because I'm not that tall, and Matt's not that tall, and
Oh,
Grim wasn't here yet, so.
I'm not that tall either. Average.
So you'll have to explain it to me at some point. So, and then we have Legatus, one of our 2 mods. Absolutely fabulous. Hail to you as well. Good to see you here. Hey, Goat and Panel. Welcome, Jacob. Jacob, I keep trying to convince to, coaxed onto the panel in some way, shape, or form, but we haven't quite figured out a niche he's comfortable with yet, but we'll get there. He has his own channel, which is grossly undersubbed.
Should fix that immediately.
Because he talks about things he likes instead of things he hates, and we just can't have that on YouTube.
The internet will not accept this.
Lord Toxic, what's up, awesome nerds? That's the first time it hasn't just been what's up, nerds, so I think we're going up in the world. We have Eraserhead, who is our other mod, and who is the ongoing links guy. He will find your links, he will put them in, and the various fundraisers that people are looking for. He also makes sure everyone's got them out there. Rachel needs to move, I believe, because her mother has some medical issues and they can no longer live in the place they're living and have it be safe for her mom. So if you have $5 that you can stand to go without a cup of coffee, if you can throw it her way, that would be great. They are really coming down to the deadline as to when they have to move, and moving is expensive. We have... I always just say Mike. I'm not actually sure how you like your name pronounced, but I don't think I can go Mike enough times to not sound like I'm sneezing.
It's like when you're using one of the old-fashioned radios. It's that noise before it turns.
I know, but I can't make that. I can't make that.
Or it's a fantasy name with the apostrophe after the K. Kamike.
Yes. See, I told you. Eraser knows I need links before I even have them. So, if anybody wants to go sub to Jacob Ironsides,
Do it.
yes, do it. He does real fun X-Files stuff and some very, very good movies. Occasionally, I even get to be on the X-Files ones. So, the evil world of Dungeons and Dragons. We have the very, very first, which I don't know. Is the white box generally considered the first, even though I'm pretty sure it isn't technically? What's the general consensus these days?
So they say 0th edition for the wooden box initial one.
Oh, I totally
I've heard
forgot there was a
legends
wooden
about
box.
that thing.
Yeah,
I have met people who've had it. I have never seen it myself.
yeah. I think there were only a few hundred, maybe 1,000 of those, and that was like their first proof of concept edition. So if you want to get really primitive, then
The closest to wargaming.
yes.
Yeah, it's just chainmail with a coat of paint.
Yeah, somebody mentioned chainmail on Twitter the other day for like the first. I had not seen references to chainmail in ages. I was so excited. I was like, people still remember this.
I know there's a fellow. I haven't been to the con where I see him every time. He shows up at every gaming panel that I have, and I distinctly remember this gentleman was very, very, very old. So him and his wife always in the front row. And I don't remember what the exact panel topic was, but the opening question was asking the audience, so what edition did you start with? He just raises his hand, smarmy expression. It's like, I started playing chainmail. We're like, of course you did. From that day forward, that has been the defining memory I have associated with that game.
My husband actually owned some chainmail pieces
Ooh.
once upon a time because he's a collector, gray blur line into hoarder when it comes to gaming stuff. So
I think me and him are pretty much on the same page on that.
Yeah. If there's a plaque, that makes it a collection.
I mean, I think that you have to occasionally take things out of the box so people can see them for it to be a collection.
That is fair.
So then we have the white box,
Mhm.
and then there's the red box, followed by blue and what was the third one?
Oh, damn.
Basic, expert, um, something, master, immortal.
Yeah, companion, is that what it was, or champion, something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all got known by their colors though.
Hmm.
So red was the basic, blue was the expert, and I cannot remember what the third one was.
Basic, expert, companion, master, and immortal.
Black. Master was black. That's what I was trying to think of. I don't think I ever saw the fourth one.
Yes, I know there was an advanced D&D in there somewhere. I've only ever seen relics of it. Never gotten to play it.
So then you have then the numbers start getting real confusing. So you have AD&D, which is kind of second edition, except that they changed the name, so not really.
Yeah.
And then you have like AD&D second edition,
Mhm.
and then you have 3, and then you have 3.5, and then you
There,
have
there was a
yes.
revised second edition as well.
Hmm.
Oh, God, there wasn't
Oh,
there?
that's right.
Yeah. That was 95, I think.
So 3
And
versions of second edition, 2 versions of third edition.
Because not counting the unofficial 3.75 released by Paizo.
And was it just 4? Were there any like weird 4.3s or something like that?
No, I think
no,
they abandoned it real
Nah.
quick.
there was some monkeying around with the licensing agreements, but it didn't change the rules or anything.
I was trying to remember if I'd ever seen a cover change because that was the one. That was the one I never played it. I never read it. I never did anything. Um,
I own some fourth edition books, mainly for because I'm a lore junkie and I like all that junk.
Yeah, for
Um,
posterity.
I will slightly defend fourth edition that I think it looks like a decent miniatures war game, but
well,
that's
It's a
yeah, that's
lovely
that's what I
miniatures
was
game.
actually going to say.
yeah.
Is that the reason I
I think
never
it's an awful role playing game, but
gave it a shot at all is that I am not a minis person.
mhm.
The husband is
It definitely
enough of
seems more like
enough of a
your
minis person for
husband's.
both of
Yeah.
us. Yeah. But it's that's just not my thing, and I heard right off the bat like, yeah, okay, it's a passable minis game, and I was like, well, I don't like minis games, so I guess I'm out on that one.
I won 3 copies of fourth edition in a scenario competition they ran for Dragon Magazine. So I have the core books all signed and everything, which is got to be some kind of curse, I guess. I I remember being at the launch party in the UK for fourth edition, and they held it at the London Dungeon. And we sat down to play with the demo guy, and it was like me and a couple of other sort of bigger movers and shakers in the UK scene, and the guy who runs one of the biggest hobby shops in the UK. And they start running this demo, and we're all just kind of looking at each other like, "What the fuck is this? What's going on?" Yeah, I don't think it quite went how they planned.
I actually had so I used to run a lot of conventions. Because I am one of those weird organized, or at least I used to be one of those weird organized gamers. Um, and so people would
Color
just be
coding and
like,
such.
"Hey, we voted for you to run this thing when you weren't looking." Um, and I fourth edition was just coming out on the last convention I ran, and they sent me like 10 copies. I could not give those suckers away. Uh, so I actually had several copies. I just never bothered to read them. Legata says, original D&D, AD&D, AD&D second. Nothing else matters. Um, and then we get into 5th edition, so pretty much everyone hates 4th. Pretty much everyone likes AD&D in 3rd. Though there are some people that are not crazy about the Thaco in AD&D, so... and then you hit 5th edition, and I think it has got to be the most polarizing of the editions, because people either love it or they despise it.
Uh, which 5th edition?
Sorry, is
20...
2020... Does 2024 count as 5th edition as well?
That's what they say. It's not that different, just enough to trip you up.
So it's
But yeah,
5.5 is what you're telling me.
in all but
Do
name.
these people
Yeah.
not understand how numbers work?
I think they hired the same people who did sequels for Castlevania.
I am referencing the one that the most people will probably be familiar with, because I think 2024 is still not terribly mainstream at this point. There are a
Not
lot
from
of
what
people
I've seen.
resisting going over to it. A lot of people who, sort of just started playing. Saying the original 5th edition sounds weird, but there it is. And
Yeah,
they
the
just
one
got
that's
the
10
books
years
and they
old.
just got all the stuff and they were just getting to know the rules, and so they're like, "No, I just got here. I'm not leaving."
I will say I'm currently running one 5th edition game. I'm about to start 2 more because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I stick to the 2014 rules.
Wait a minute, I can't get you to show up for a game once a month and you're running 2 games?
I mean,
That might be why
We're
you
gonna
can't get him to show
we're
up for
gonna
game.
we're
because
gonna discuss this.
you run your games on like Saturdays. All my games are in the middle of the week.
I mean, I could fix that. It's not
I
like,
do I run a team game once a month. It's the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and that's like in the afternoon. And then I've been playing every other Tuesday night, and I'll be running that, I think, starting next week.
um actually I run 5 games a month right now, and only 2 of them are on weekends. The other 3 are during the week.
Well, son of a sea biscuit.
Um hey, Hamster, welcome. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Who has anybody actually played pre White Box?
Well, yes,
Of course
kind
you
of.
have.
Well,
One of us had to have.
I don't know if anybody. I'm assuming some of you may be familiar with Tim Kask. He was one of the TSR guys. I played in one of his games at a local convention about 4 or 5 years ago, and he had all of his really tattered old, booklets that were additions to
Plastic.
chainmail. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun, and I can say I don't need to do it ever again because I did it once.
So it was really fun because you got to play with him, and you never want to do it again because it's too complicated, or what was
It's
the?
not. No, it definitely was not complicated. Was very rules light. It's not my cup of tea. I'm gonna be real honest. It was fun. I had a great time, and if the stars aligned again and I had an open spot and he was running a game at another convention, I might join in, but I'm not going to search out for it.
Okay. Uh, White Box? No, nobody's done White Box.
No.
I've read it, but I haven't actually played it. and even reading it was difficult because my husband was afraid I was going to breathe on it wrong or something. Redbox was where I started.
I have a funny story about the Red Box. I don't know if I told that one last time you had me on.
All right, bring it on.
Okay, so you may have technically beaten me as far as passage of time, but for folks who remember the long ago and the far away, back when malls had both a Walden Books and a B. Dalton in them, usually across the way from each other, I had gone into just B. Dalton, and my mother essentially told me I could get one thing, and then she didn't want me to bother her for the rest of the time we were at the mall. And they had a Red Box on their sales shelf, and I had no idea what I was looking at. I just saw there was cool artwork on it, and it sounded like it had fun stuff, and it was like $6. So I bought the Red Box completely blind with no idea of what the hell it was. Got it home, opened it, and was utterly perplexed by what I was looking at. It was like I attempted to run it with a friend of mine, like who was vaguely aware of what tabletop RPGs were, but had never actually been in a group. So it's the two of us, like just like two chimpanzees over a laptop, trying to figure out what the heck it is that's going on. And it was just early enough that like regular internet access wasn't a thing, so we couldn't just go to a forum full of other gamers and ask them, "We found this weird thing. What is it? Did I just waste my money?" And so it went under my bed for like a decade until I got to college, and then I actually started playing regular tabletop RPGs in one of the future editions we're going to talk about. And that was when I remembered, wait, I have a sack of those dice. It's in that thing under my bed that I'd completely just forgotten about. And now that I had the internet, I could figure out what it was I'd bought and had just been gathering dust for so many years.
I can't imagine being like, I have one thing I can buy at the mall. Oh, I can't even read it. I don't know what to do with this, and I'm sad.
It's like the artwork was fun. I liked the dice, but like I could not comprehend what Thaco in particular was the thing. And I was like, so let me get this straight. I have math in this direction to go in this direction to determine this. Now I gave up. My eyes went cross.
I mean, that's why the later ones had charts, I think, for people who can't do math.
That would have been
I
very
would be one
helpful.
of those. So I did the red box and the blue box and the black box. Like I said, I didn't even know there was a fourth one.
The secret unknown box.
I know. Now I want to know what color it was, because apparently that's how we determine.
It was the
That
color
was
out of space.
that was when there were actual D&D editions. We just knew them by the color of their box. Farv, have a good night. And then, most of my gaming, I don't know. Most of the point where I actually became coherent enough to like logic out gaming as opposed to just being an 8-year-old and stumbling my way with other 8-year-olds through the whole process, was AD&D. And I didn't realize until much later that there was really some kind of, like some people had books from one version and some people had books from later revised stuff, and we were just kind of mashing them together best we could.
That happens. Yes. That is not a new tradition, but it is universally frustrating.
Original Hamster says, pour a bowl of delicious Thaco. It's algebra in the morning. So, of course, the question has to be, what's everybody's favorite edition?
I'm partial to 3.5, but that's partly because of the topic that I think we're here about, to discuss power creep. It's a thing that I have found in general of whatever edition you first mastered and found all like the really crunchy bits and secret blind spots where the cameras can't see you do shenanigans, that tends to be the one that you end up preferring over the others.
Huh, interesting way to look at it.
I'm gonna go with that too. 3.5 / Pathfinder, that whole cluster. I love it all. Give me that crunch.
No.
I don't know that I really like any of them.
That's
Sorry to be that guy, but see, I didn't start with D&D. I started with Fighting Fantasy game books and the Fighting Fantasy RPG.
Man after my own heart there.
Yeah, and Iron Crown's Middle Earth role playing, and
Mm.
Dragon Warriors and things like that. And that seems to be more of a common experience this side of the pond. People had a bit more of a sort of cosmopolitan experience with RPGs. I think it's because there was a Games Workshop on every high street, and this was before they went full into the minis and stuff. And they
Yeah.
sold all kinds of things, by all
This is the
kinds.
slightly
I
less
picked,
grim darkness of the recent past.
yeah, I picked up my copy of Cyberpunk Black Box from there. So my first experience with D&D was the Red Box, and it was not a good experience having played these other games that had so much more scope for doing things.
Hmm.
I played a mage and got eaten by the carrion crawler in the sample adventure that's under the gate at the very start. And then I created a thief, and the guy running the game couldn't cope with me wanting to do things like stab giant creatures in the eye while they're asleep. It's like, surely that would kill it. Well, the rules, backstab, I don't know. Yeah, so he died too. And I just thought, this is bullshit. I'm going back to my other games. So, yeah, I
So
didn't have a
you are
great
the
experience.
you are the only other person I have met who has mentioned the Fighting Fantasy series, and that has made my day.
Um,
Professionally,
if you had to pick one, which one do you dislike least?
um, third edition felt more like a modern RPG when it came out. Fourth edition barely qualifies as an RPG, and fifth edition felt like a bit of a backslide. So third edition before it all got out of hand, I guess.
So not 3.5 then,
Mm,
just straight 3.
rules revision is okay. 3.5.
Okay. So I am somewhat sympathetic to your having to pick one thing actually because I did start with D&D. Um, and for the first several years I really didn't like it, and the fact that I have continued to game is really somewhat astonishing to me. The person who ran all of our games was a terrible game master, and to this
That'll
day
do
I
it.
loathe all magic systems because of it. um,
Yeah,
But for some reason, I continued to keep plugging along on the gaming thing. And then I got to college and discovered pretty much any other game system and immediately went, yeah, these are so much better. um, I I did play a lot of second edition. Um, like I said, pretty much everyone I know had just finished off their second edition collections when third edition came out, so pretty much nobody I knew got into third edition, which is hence my lack. Um, and I'm gonna blaspheme here. I think there are parts of fifth edition mechanically that are good, but I do not, and this is kind of what brings us to this topic. I don't like the power creep. Um, Early editions were about being heroic, about putting yourself out for whatever the mission was, but you were just as likely to be eaten by a carrion crawler as anything. Making it to level 5 was like a celebratory thing because it was so rarely done. It was so hard to accomplish. And 5th edition, while I don't necessarily mind some of the streamlining they did, the fact that you can take on gods at level 5 is utterly ridiculous to me. Um, I think it's probably why, I prefer Shadow Dark, which really is a lot of 3.5, but with the first edition death likelihood. Um, and I made a comment to somebody a while ago about the fact that D&D has become a superhero game. And a a Superman superhero game at that. I mean, does anybody disagree? Are there?
I have well, it's not so much a hard disagreement because fifth edition characters are really easy to kill if that's all you want to do.
Hmm.
But I have a theory as to how it came to be this way, and some of this is just stuff that I've worked with and designers I've talked with, and some of it's because I've gone back and I've played older editions and I've seen how they're structured, and there's an emerging pattern that I feel explains some of it, which doesn't excuse any of the decisions, but I feel it explains what's happening. And a lot of this particular theory is older editions. You, as you mentioned, you were given the mission. It's like you're told, "Hey, you're all here to go do this thing." Whether it's go, I don't know, go poke the sleeping goblins and steal back the stuff that they took, or go like find out what's in this dungeon that's wrecking havoc. And because of that and how you generated your characters of like roll your stats in a row, what you get's what you get, like figure it out, it was very much not about your input and your creativity. It was, this is the adventure we're playing. Whatever character you get's the character you get, and that's that. And I feel like the changes made both in second edition when they started giving, because they didn't give you the new classes, but you had the sort of packets that you could do. If there was the fighter variant that was the precursor to the barbarian, there was some other stuff you got for other classes. I want to say there was like a pre-paladin they did for the priest, but lots of that felt like giving more narrative control to the players and saying, okay, have some control over the character you want to play. What's their story? What's your addition to this, rather than just, you all happen to be the unlucky sods who have been picked to go and deal with a necromancer. And then as it went on into other editions, the idea was very much, we don't want your characters to die, because the idea is we want you to play not just to level 5, level 3, we want you to play all the way to level 20, and we want you to buy all the ridiculous extra stuff to get you there, to keep you playing, and to keep telling the story of this one character, so you don't have, Jeff playing the 17 identical brothers and sisters of this one NPC that keeps dying. But, lastly, to wrap up the theory of when we get to everyone's favorite or least hated edition of 3.0 to 3.5, that feels like when they really started marketing to the players as well as to the game masters, because we got all the additional crunch and nonsense for us to play with. We got all the prestige classes. We had the very early version of archetypes for just switching out abilities of base class, and that didn't feel like something that we would have gotten in previous editions. And while it was really fun and I really liked the customization of that, and it's one reason it's my favorite edition, I do feel a lot of that was going, okay, we have 5 people at the table playing, only one of them is giving us money. How do we fix this?
Well, except
And
that
then once,
5th
yeah.
edition seems to have gone back to the GMs are the only ones buying
It
books.
very much has, and I will say my one major complaint, and this is not just sour grapes because I'm very crunchy and 5e is significantly less crunchy than 3.5, but it's very much, as a designer, trying to go in and make stuff for 5th edition, especially if I'm converting something from a more complicated system, it feels half finished. It has that same feeling that the very early editions had of like, and then this thing happens. How do we rule that? I don't know. Do whatever you think's fun. We don't care.
See, I
And so
think
yeah.
I think
I want to agree with Neil 100%.
I think that how do I phrase this in a way that's coherent? Darn it, I lost it.
That's fair. But yeah, it's like as an example, and this, I think this might have been a complaint I brought up last time, because when I was designing something for my own setting, Sundara Dawn of a New Age, I have a whole city like run by a guild of necromancers and mostly upkept by an army of the undead. And
got
in
it.
3.5, Pathfinder, etc., there's all these expansive rules for the types of undead you can create if you're a necromancer or just a magic user who wants to have undead. And it's how many different types of undead can you make, what hit dice of them can you control, what are the things you can get away with, and how badly can this spiral out of control. But then you go to D&D 5e, it's like, you can make one of these 2 types of undead, and you can only ever have one at a time. So why? It's reasons. But I wanted to summon an army of the dead. Yeah, no.
Genres. That's what I started to say. I think the issue is D&D was very good at what it was originally designed for, which was dungeon crawls. You enter point A, you leave point B. You hit whatever things you hit along the way. I think that
And
more recent editions, D&D has tried to be everything for everyone, You start out with like 400 possible beginner classes, except that once you choose your class, there's really only one possible set of. It looks like you have a lot of choice, but then once you make that choice, you then don't have anywhere you can go that you don't have a very specific, proper build, shall we say, in quotes. This is how you have to do it to be efficient. And I disagree that the older editions didn't have that players couldn't do interesting things with the narrative.
Oh, you absolutely could. It just wasn't. What I was saying is, it wasn't mechanically handed to you for you to have that power.
Well, but I mean, what's a creative narrative if it's handed to you? I mean, if you give me a thief that has an 18 dex, but you know his constitution is 3, the narrative I can spin with this really like paranoid, terrified, uh, you know, constantly like looking around corners because you know one hit's going to take him out. I could have great fun
Absolutely.
with something like that. Or you have a you have a thief who has an intellect and a wisdom of like 5 apiece. Well, now I'm a dumb oaf that thinks that stealing things is hitting them over the head and mugging them. You know, like if anyone's watched Viva La Dirt League, the muggers in Viva La Dirt League.
And I agree with that 100%. It's more and this is a habit that I have because I started playing at later games where game masters did not have you roll your stats in order. They would, particularly for me, because they watched me roll stats and they're like, no, you get 3 columns, pick which one's good. But it's that, like if I show up wanting to play, like I want to have a wizard, I have kind of a vague idea of what I want his backstory to be, and like here's some of the story elements I want to play with, like for my personal plot, my character, and then I roll up something utterly unable to work with that. Now I'm stuck with a character I didn't want to play, and that is something that you just didn't really see in the older editions because that wasn't how we did things yet. It was very much a like, what have the dice granted you? You might have something amazing, you might have something like that's terrible, you might have something with a little bit of both, and it
But
was kind of up to you to figure out what to do with it.
I would argue that the result is if you get people who played earlier editions, they tend to roleplay with a much wider range, whereas people who played with later editions, they play the same character all the time.
On the one hand,
Self-inserts the
yes.
most
I hard,
scene.
Yeah,
hard
I was gonna
disagree.
say, and it's not really a character. It's just them as the main character.
Yeah, on the one hand, absolutely, definitely seen that. I have negative experiences with several older players in that they'll just play the same character updated for every edition, every time they join a new group that doesn't know the shenanigans they do with that character. And those people usually get kicked out of the group, Simon.
Oh, see, those are players I really love because, as far as I'm concerned, the more you want to mess with the game, that more I get to mess with you.
They do it in a very not fun way.
I had
And
a,
with
I
usually
have,
very mean things said to people.
I have told this story before, but when I was in college, there was a player who liked to destroy people's games, and because it was a college club, you couldn't tell him he couldn't play. So he would go in, he would kill himself in the most ridiculous way possible, tank the game, write up a new character, do it all over again. And he did this over and over and over again, and people got to the point where they just didn't want to play anymore. And that was how I discovered Cult, which was the first game I ever ran, and was my absolute favorite, and starts off with Death is Only the Beginning. So I gave him an immortal character. And he thought that was great, and he was talking about everything he was going to be able to do with that. And 3 sessions in, he was a quadriplegic. And he said, this isn't any fun. I want a new character. And I said, no, you're not dead yet. And he said, but I can't
you're
do
not dead?
anything. And I said, you'll heal eventually. And so I forced him to actually participate on a more cognitive level or just be bored. And he turned out to be a really great gamer. He just needed to be forced to stop being the class clown for a while and realize that nobody found it funny. That does not work with every gamer. I mean, I've had some that I, just up and left my games in a huff, but that's fine. I didn't kick them out; they left. But I'm a big fan of giving players enough rope to hang themselves, and the more rope they insist they want, the more I'm willing to give them. Um,
I think
I
what's
wish I could
changed.
like comments in the chat.
I think what's changed is the way it used to be. Your characters started out as like blank playing pieces, pawns almost, or
yeah.
checkers, right? Um, just a cluster of mechanics moving through a controlled environment in the form of a dungeon. And as you role played and you accomplished deeds and you found treasure and you played more and you took the opportunity to role play more, then a character emerged from play and became something more story and role play focused because of the experiences that you had. You know, like after playing the choose your own adventure thing in basic, everyone wants to kill Bargle. So you know that's a kind of example of how you get hooked in. You know, a villain that from one dungeon escapes and it's not meant to be part of the campaign, but suddenly you want to track down that guy. Now people tend to front load with character, and it doesn't always necessarily make sense. You know, you turn up with a level one character with a 30-page backstory, which you haven't bullet pointed for me, so none of that's going to turn up. Uh, and you have all these expectations and these desires for the story, and you try to make the games master your bitch. And the trouble is, everyone else at the table does the same thing, but nobody necessarily wants the same thing from the game. Um, so there's advantages and disadvantages to both ways of doing it, but I tend to find especially new players come to games with all these enormous expectations and desires to have the game go their way and do all the topics that they want, and get resentful when you do anything else, which isn't so healthy for the table.
Well, and it's one of the reasons it's so hard to find game masters these days because it's literally become the expectation that instead of spreading out a world, I mean, okay, so if you had dungeons, here's the dungeon, do your thing. If you have a sandbox world, it's here's the world, do your thing. Those of us that are not big on prepping necessarily, the sandbox thing works great. We just make it up as we go along. Um, the people who are heavy into prep, the dungeon idea works better. But now it's become you have to build a world, have everything prepped, and then find a way to work these elaborate, super powered team members who don't necessarily have anything in common. They all want to be the main character. Um, and how do you make that engaging and interesting and get all of them invested when they all are like, they're all the chosen one. Like
Do you remember that old comic about Harry Potter fanfic with House Sparkly Poo, which was
no, but
Until
where
do
just
go
now.
on.
so, so all of these self-insert Mary Sue fanfic characters that turned up at Hogwarts, you know, oh, I've got pink hair and my eyes are two different colors, and I'm Harry's third cousin twice removed, and yeah, all of this stuff. They were all sorted into House Sparkly Poo. I just kind of ignored by everybody else, and they all gradually turned normal over over the course of the story. Like their hair turned brown, and none of them understood what was going on. But yeah, that's kind of how it feels. Everyone wants to be special, and as a result of that, nobody is, because you know it's if every group is bisexual polycule disaster area, you know it's not different. It's not
They're all a
interesting.
unique snowflake, just like everyone else.
Yes, I see you've
Exactly.
been part of the Werewolf the Apocalypse games I've been part of.
uh,
Although
Grim
honestly,
has some vampire LARP stories.
yeah, I do.
those are always good
Yeah,
to tell.
yeah.
This is
Werewolf
an
though.
interesting. There was another point I wanted to cover, but I think Hamiyana-san has a good point. The question before I start to make a character: Am I a character? Am I my character? I do think that divide has become really big. Um, I'm not totally certain why. I think there's a lot of things that have changed because role-playing games are trying to become more like video games. But video games are designed for one person, and role-playing games are designed for multiple people in a lot of cases. Um, though I do have a theory that this is why solo gaming is suddenly becoming so popular. Um,
It's not out of the question.
but I don't understand. So D&D maybe, but in general, as far as gaming goes, I don't know why a character and my character have to be mutually exclusive. Like I said,
It's actually
if
the
the
first time I've
dice
heard that question.
if the dice if the dice roll me up. So the fact is, I'm a very uncreative person. I'm really good at like making other people's stuff tidy. I'm terrible about thinking up my own stuff. But if the dice hand me a set of stats for a that should lead to a certain character, but they're like all over the place, I can take those stats and say, okay, here's how I can build an interesting backstory. And I very frequently will end up with a more interesting character than if someone just said, what do you want to play? And I go, I don't know.
So I think, yeah, I would say like that's the to come in from the opposite of that. I may have mentioned this before, I may not have, but like my goal when I first became an author is I wanted to write novels. I kind of fell into RPGs as a result of that because they're like, oh, it's like a novel, but you roll dice and do math, and I'm like, so it's like what I'm already doing but harder. This sounds like a scam, and lo and behold, I loved it anyway. But it's the part of that will definitely be expectations, but if I'm invited to a game and like I'm given like a good pitch for it and folks want me to show up, I'd be like, okay, cool, I'll have a character for like the plot arc you've told me and the world that we're going to be invented in, because I want to be a good player and I want to be plugged in and not be that guy who's folding my arms and demanding you give me a super special plot hook. But then if I show up and I've done all this mental work and they're like, no, actually you're going to be playing this other unrelated thing that I didn't tell you about till just now, I might finish the game, but that is my personal preference of I do not want to take what I'm given and figure it out and make something, because I can already do that process, and I would rather find stats to fit the story I want to tell that I've already kind of attempted to make for the game master of this should be an easy fill-in. Here's a bunch of NPCs for stuff you don't need, or here's that story you asked me for, or I'll talk to other players and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, what are you doing, let's tie these together, let's make it really easy for everybody. And that's stuff that's harder to do if you don't know what you're doing until you're getting your character right before game, or only until everybody gets together and does their rolling.
I guess it depends on the scenario. I mean, if I'm running at a convention, it's going to be
Oh yeah,
pre-gens.
convention, no, absolutely
And I just
not.
tell everyone it's pre-gens.
Yes.
The idea of letting people make their own characters at a convention is madness.
if I am running a game with kind of a preset idea, I will say, here's kind of the but I'm not a huge prep person. I tend to be like, here's the world. You tell me what you're going to do and I will form the world around that kind of thing. But what I do is, so most of my players really hate making characters, and it doesn't matter how simple the game is. They just
You're gonna run into that.
I'm not that player.
I just assumed that was why you stopped playing.
I make characters for fun. I've got 300 characters waiting in the wings for games I'll never play.
Yeah, those aren't books in your background. Those are all the character sheets.
Yeah.
So what I do is I just ask everyone, write me 3 sentences about what you want to play.
Oof.
And they write me 3 sentences and I build them a character. You have to understand, I started out with the first edition of Cult, which is possibly the crunchiest character build game out
I've
there.
looked at it. It was neat looking.
It runs very smoothly once you build the characters, but character build takes a very long time. So I just say, give me 3 sentences about what you want to play. But because I'm keeping it sandboxy, there is no, I'm doing this, you should do something to balance it out. If I end up with an entire party of, I don't know, clerics, I'm just going to design the world in such a way that it is fun for an entire, you are going on a pilgrimage together to such and such a to such and such a thing. If all of you want to be clerics, you can also all be clerics. If you all want to be fighters, you can all be fighters. all of you want to be clerics and one guy wants to be a fighter? Well, you're going on a pilgrimage and this is the, temple bodyguard that's going along with you. I just don't think it's that hard to bend things around that without changing the world itself. Now, that being said, once the world is established, it has a life of its own. Somebody said once that they said, "Oh yeah, the GM gave us this, world-ending thing, and we just didn't want to do it, so we went and became merchants instead, and it was great." And I said, "Okay, you could do that in my game, but the world is going to end."
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because, like, other events continue to happen. I'm not going to railroad you into saving the world. Just understand the world will end.
Mm-hmm. And then I think that's another thing that changed. It was established in earlier editions, because I remember there was the very old Greyhawk stuff and whatnot. But, like, I remember particularly with 3.0, 3.5, at least with me paying attention to what D&D was doing specifically, that feels like when they started releasing the big settings books. It felt like when they started doing the really big, the pre-written campaigns, lots of the tie-in novels, things to sort of nail down all the things so the game master didn't have to do all the world setup. They didn't have to do all the prep. They didn't even have to actually come up with the plot, which then through the 3.5 and Pathfinder era became a thing where, like, as you mentioned, like, there's a lot of game masters who are expected to give you just all these ridiculous tie-ins and set pieces and keep all these balls going in the air. But so many folks, and this is what one of my game masters does, she runs exclusively the pre-written campaigns. Yeah, she does not write her own worlds, does not want to do her own plot. She is very good. Yeah, she's very good at the game mechanics. But it is one of those of, like, okay, which adventure path do we want to do? It's like, we want to do this one. Okay, I'm going to get this one. I'm going to review it. And I'm going to let you know vaguely what it is you should expect and what you should bring so that you can be an active part of that story. And while some people don't like that, or they think it's really spoilery, or they think it was really limiting, I like knowing what to expect so that, the character that I come up with is never going to have to be completely rewritten or utterly changed in order to fit the way things go in one direction. If that makes sense.
So I'm curious. I ran what was I running? Numenera. And the party was kind of starting to slug, and it was kind of, the sessions were becoming a bit of a slug. So I decided, well, we'll just do this quick little side fun thing. They've fallen asleep in this room that can take them into the dream realm. And so we'll have this quick little side one-off where, like, they meet one of the Fae, and, they have to convince the Fae to get them out of the dream world. And it'll be something a little different, and yeah. So within 10 minutes, one of the players immediately makes a bargain with the Fae.
As do.
And the Fae are now main characters in my game, and I never intended for that to happen. But I'm not going to tell the player that they can't do it. So in that particular case, the game ended up going in a totally different direction than it was ever intended to go. And those characters, some of those characters actually did change. Their bargains with the Fae literally changed their stats.
As do.
Not, in a way that I think any of them were unhappy with. But it was one of those, like, they got rid of something bad in return for, it's the Fae, so now you have this other thing.
Now you have to eat live rabbits once a month. Why? No reason.
One of them ended up needing, the Fae, he owes the Fae a boon. One of them had, like, a split personality, and he got rid of the split personality, but now he has a sword he has to keep with a really, really angry spirit in it.
It's a good deal.
So, it's things like that, just things to make it more interesting. But I don't know, those pre-written books feel like they micromanage not only the players, but the GM. Like, you don't even need a GM, it's just a choose your own adventure book. You just flip the page to, like, players go into room 1, read this thing.
Honestly, I think that is what makes, because as you mentioned, expecting the GM to do all of that on their own is asking a lot. But asking a game master to follow what's written, and obviously there's game masters out there that change things, they switch things around. Your players do something ridiculous, and so there's a story of Matt the Demon that I'll tell later if people care about. But it's a thing that, like, and particularly for crunchier games, and I don't know if Matt will back me up on this one, but I've had a lot of game masters running 3.0, 3.5 who had no business behind the screen, but
I think we've all
that
had
was
that experience.
yeah, we've all had that experience. But there were a few of them when you
Except
handed
maybe
them
Grim,
a
who
book.
lives behind the screen.
That's fair. Yeah, like, when they were handed a book, there was like, here's the rules you need, here's the stats for all the monsters, here's like the plot you need to follow, here's descriptions of the NPCs we're going to talk to, here's their actual motivation and the mystery they're trying to do. It didn't transform them completely, but so many of the issues they had as game masters went out the window because it was either they didn't have the book with those stats in it, or they were embarrassed they didn't know something and didn't want to look it up, so they would make a ruling that mechanically in such a system that required you to balance so many things was just knocking over a house of cards, and it would invalidate one player's abilities entirely, or it would mean that something another player could do to solve the situation was suddenly not allowed for some reason. And it's a great training wheel for a complicated system. If especially if you're a GM who is really bad at that part of things, it lets you focus on presentation, and it lets you, is having had to write some modules of, I usually have to ask, okay, what would competent players and a game master do? That's the first option. What would the biggest jerk in the room do? That we're going to write that in for the second option, assuming that somebody is going to try this. And the third option is usually like, here's some tips for things that I can't think of to put in here. And I trust them to sort of connect those dots. And it might be like, hey, we decided to just like kill this character and find the secret note in their pocket, as I expected you to do. That is what, so many players would do when presented with an enemy. And then there's the second option of, it's like, well, I chose to like steal the thing from them and read it that way. Ah, good, you've solved the mystery without killing anyone. Very well, good job. And then other people who might, like, I want to go out and get drunk with this NPC. It's, okay, sure, you want to do that? You're welcome to do so. They are very maudlin and confess to you the secret that you needed.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of the Wizards of the Coast book that like they really are just like the read this thing, the players do this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it feels like they have less agency than they ever had in the early editions.
Oh yeah,
And
Wizards, absolutely, no question.
I think Grim has a similar take as I do on pre-written adventures, so I'm hoping you will chime in on this.
Yeah, I don't much like them. Um, they can serve a purpose to teach you something if you're completely new to the game. It can give an example of how the world is supposed to work in an actual game environment rather than just described on the page. But that's about as useful as it can be, I think. If I ever buy adventures, what I tend to do is just steal all the bits out of them and use them for something else, or bend them out of all recognition.
Which is not uncommon.
No. So at the moment, I'm running Curse of Strahd for my adult adventures online gaming group. So I've had to change lots about that to make it slightly more risque. So I've tried to give it a bit of that sort of hammer horror sort of camp and sleaze to it.
Yeah,
Which
we are
is
not a
working.
family-friendly show. When he means adult, he means adult.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
So that
We are more of a family-friendly show than his adult show.
yeah. So that's fun, but I find the same problem that I find whenever I run a module adventure is it kind of cramps my style because you need to remember to describe the things in the room in the way that they've got it written down, which is usually not particularly great writing. It's not particularly evocative. And because
When
you're
it is
reading it
evocative, it's
out.
described confusingly.
Yeah, yeah. So there's an art to writing a read aloud description, and you don't want to be too terse, and you don't want to be too verbose either. There's a sort of happy middle ground where you convey the information effectively and draw attention to the things that actually matter in the room subtly through the use of language and ideally through delivery as well. But if you're reading prose off a page, it just lacks something. Plus, I find with preset adventures, I'm always flipping backwards and forwards, finding things,
Yeah,
and that
that is
makes the
definitely an
play a
issue.
lot the play a lot more stilted. Now, that's more of a problem if you're doing a performance game on a stream or something. It's not so much of a problem, around the house with your friends.
I think it
Um,
actually is. The one adventure I bought was I recently bought a Shadow of the Demon Lord adventure, and it's not really an adventure, it's just a map with a bunch of points on it. But because my computer system is falling apart, um, I only can look at it like I have to have all the player sheets kind of overlaying the map, and then I have the little points. When I click on them, they bring up whatever the important thing is that's supposed to be in that room. And I still end up doing a lot of flipping back and forth, and it ends up. I think it's less about being on a stream and more about being online. Because when you're
mm,
online, keeping people's attention automatically becomes harder.
yeah, there
Um,
was something else I wanted to say quickly. Neil, you were saying you felt like the story first gaming kind of came along with third edition. I would say earlier, because talking of Ravenloft, Weiss and Hickman were the original boosters for, role ROLE over role ROLL role playing, and that argument used to rage in Dragon Magazine's letters page constantly.
And now it's
But
going on
they
on
really,
Reddit.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they really brought that narrative forward first with Ravenloft, I suppose, and then with Dragonlance, which was a huge
That
success.
is right. I'd forgotten about Dragonlance.
So I
Yeah.
have a quasi funny story. It kind of almost matches your story originally, Neil. So back in like '97, somebody I knew gifted me a bunch of first edition books and then all of the Dragonlance modules.
Oof,
And
that's
that
a
was my
lot.
first introduction to any kind of role playing game. So I tried to play with my cousin, who at the time I was 13 and my cousin was 10, and we had no idea what we were
Oof.
doing. We could not figure it out. So much like you, all those books and modules, like I read through them and I looked at the maps and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is neat. But they just kind of collected dust under my bed for quite a while. And then eventually I just started buying my own books. And at that point, third edition was out. And so I started buying all the books because I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like reading, all the monster manuals and stuff. But I never found anybody to play with until 2014 is the first time I actually played my first D&D game, like with other people. Like I played Neverwinter Nights, like for the PC. I loved
Classic.
that. And I probably made 30 or 40 characters for third edition and 3.5, but I never got around to playing them.
so, kind of getting back onto the superhero thing, what I started to say earlier was that D&D does dungeon crawls really well. But now it's trying to be, there are supplements that are trying to be horror games, and it does that extraordinarily badly. I love horror games, but the whole point of a horror game is a feeling of helplessness, and when you can cast Fireball at first level, like, there's nothing about that that's going to make you feel helpless or, you know, like you don't have control over a situation.
So,
Um, and I
counterpoint
feel
to that,
like,
though.
huh?
Just put a pin in that for later. I was just like, counterpoint of I feel like a lot of horror, not to disagree with exactly what you said. If you have so much power, you can just make problems go away. It's very difficult to be scared. But I feel like, and I agree, it is, you have to put in extra effort to make D&D a horror game.
Yes.
But it can be done. But it is one of those things of it's not dependent on the system. It's not dependent on what story you're running. It's dependent on the game master and whether they have the necessary chops to make players second guess themselves and if they're uncertain about things. That is some of the earliest horror games I ran were in 3.5, and I had players who they were absolutely capable of just destroying whatever was in front of them, but they had no confidence that they could, which is a fun little head trick for anybody who wants to do that.
But I think the problem is that with 5e, you have two choices. Either one, it's super powered and crazy hard, in which case you might as well just play Call of Cthulhu. Or you have kind of a slow, steady, creepy burn, and players get bored because they don't have the attention span to deal with slow, steady, creepy burns. If they're going into 3.5, they're expecting tons of combat and, you know, their story to be the center of everything, not we're going to spend 4 sessions while you figure out, you know, what the mystery even is. I think there are just so many other systems that do it better. And I think what 5e has really tried to do is overtake the superhero genre. Because 4e existed because World of Warcraft was huge. And 5e exists because the Marvel Cinematic Universe existed. That's my theory.
I hear the superhero comparison a lot, but having played superhero games, 5e really doesn't do it. Honestly,
I'm
though,
not saying it
I
does it
think
well. I'm saying I
Oh,
think
no.
that's what they're trying to do.
No, I feel like
I
what they're trying to do, like, not necessarily the way Tolkien wrote, the way we see Tolkien's films of the sweeping grandeur and the
Yep.
huge combats and characters with these elaborate backstories going back centuries or millennia, who, like, I don't know, like stab one character who's been alive for like 50,000 years and is the center of all evil, and then he dies. But it's also a thing I would wonder, and I have no idea how much influence this has had. It's just a thing I've seen crop up over and over again, is the effect of anime on how we view our fantasy. Because it's a thing everybody's tried to do at some point, of like take whatever your favorite property is and make your favorite character in the game that you're playing. And it's a thing I've come across time and time and time again, of so many players who are big weebs want to get into Dungeons and Dragons, and they try really hard, but it's not really meant for that sort of presentation, that sort of action, that sort of mythology, which is why I usually direct them towards things like Exalted. But I feel like that, not just in the art or the descriptions, but in the general feel, it has much more of, like, I will agree, it's more of a comic book, if not necessarily a superhero.
Well, but I think most anime is superhero, just of a different culture. It's
I'd argue
there.
it's more mythical, but yes.
anime and manga have changed as well, though. The rise of
That's
the
also true.
isekai genre, and
There's so many isekai games.
yes. So yeah, I was a useless fat weeb. Then I got hit by a truck and reincarnated in another world as a gigantic barbarian who could shoot bees from his fingers or something. Yeah, they
I'd
don't
watch
hold
that.
back on the titles. Yeah,
Oh, we've made Hanayama-san angry.
but I would say that okay, yeah, you can make up your anime character, but you're only allowed to watch Goblin Slayer Season 1 and Record of Lodos War, which was based on a D&D campaign anyway. So,
I'm down for that. Lotus is one of my favorites. Yeah, like
Hanayama-san, what's your current anime count up to?
oh dear.
If you if you ever need to know anything about any anime in any year of any.
I was trying to say that like maybe superhero isn't the right word, but power fantasy or progression
Very definitely a
fantasy.
power
Yeah.
fantasy.
Mhm.
And I
It's
think
it's
that's
the difference
also
between
sorry, I think that's also why you have so many self-inserts. Now, almost everyone's first D&D character is just them in a fantasy world, but that's all anyone seems to play now, or their OC, which is their idealized version of self, I guess.
See, I find that so weird. I'm like, I want to play anyone. Like, if I liked my current existence, I would not be I would not be gaming. I am.
yeah. I think genre is a really good really good word to focus on, because like so many of the dungeon crawlers, like old fashioned D&G, what a lot of the OSR seems to be trying to capture, even things like Legacy of the Flame Princess, it feels much more Robert E. Howard. That area of like, even if you have a character, there's only one Conan in that setting and everybody else is going to die. But even if you are that protagonist, like, there's no bones about it of like, one wrong move could end you, and you are going to carry scars from this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But that kind of like pre Lord of the Rings, like dark, weird fantasy sort of started to bleed out of the games as we hit more of the the story first, the front load. Whether it was intended for players to be able to tell bigger, longer, more epic stories, or if it was because it was just better for business, that I don't know. But it feels like when fantasy became more codified, like after Mr. Tolkien's contributions and after lots of folks started trying to duplicate what he did and coming up with their own series and their own takes on epic fantasy, so we sort of went from that Iron Age to more of an epic age.
I don't think D&D conforms to any of those anymore. It's
not anymore.
It's its own thing. It doesn't seem to tie into any established genre. Now it's its own beast almost.
That's kind of what I meant. Was it's trying so hard to be everything for everyone. It's not really being anything. It's kind of lost everything that made it unique to me.
Yes, I'm kind of wondering, and I have no numbers on this, it's just a theory, but seeing, because I know there's a subreddit for it, there's entire Facebook groups for it, of it's please dear God play something other than 5th edition. Of it's just so many players going, it's like, hey, I just recently watched Berserk, or like my players really like the DC movies, or whatever genre it is. Like, how do I play this in a 5th edition game? And it's just everybody with angry reacts and listing 300 other RPGs that would do that thing better. And part of it, it's always going to be money because gamers are broke. But there is that. There's a thing that happens, and I alluded to this earlier. Usually your favorite edition of D&D is whatever one you figured out all the bells and whistles on first. Mm-hmm. And part of that is I've seen so many gamers. There was a guy I played with who just deeply loved 2nd edition, would do nothing but complain that we weren't playing it. But when you have folks who find that edition they really like, getting them to play anything else is like pulling teeth with no Novocaine.
Well, except that if that's the only edition they've ever played, then they don't actually know if they really like it. They're just comfortable with it.
Well, and it's the same even if they've played other stuff and they want to keep playing that one.
You know what? If somebody has played other stuff and they find that one thing and they say, this is all I want to play, that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the people who've only ever tried one thing and like aren't willing to ever give anything else a shot. In most cases because they say, well, this was really crunchy and it was hard to learn. I am afraid to try and learn something else. And I'm going to pick on you for a minute, Grim, because this is the one I know off the top of my head. But Grim has a game that costs $5. And it's so easy you can literally learn to play it drunk.
That was the point.
You can't tell me that you can't afford a $5 book when you're buying $60 books, and that you're afraid of a lot of people think, well, all games must be this crunchy, because if D&D is the game, it must be the one that's the easiest to learn. That's what bothers me, is that most people seem to think, if this is the OG, it must be the easiest. And it's not.
It's not actually been my experience with folks. I have had so many people who, even if you explain to them, like, this game is easier to learn or this game is more what you want, they just don't want to leave because they don't want to read a new book. They don't want to learn a new system. They don't want to do anything. Even Honey Heist, I've had people be like, I already know D&D 5e, I'll just run it with that. And I'm
so
like,
what you're telling me is players are lazy now.
Oh,
what you're telling me is players are lazy.
That's not new. That's not new.
What?
Lazier.
I tend to find that those people haven't learned the rules to D&D either, so I don't know what's holding them back. If I'm constantly telling them what they have to roll and how, anyway, we can play anything, right? Because I'm doing all the work. You don't know.
You have no idea what I'm running.
Yeah,
it's a frustrating thing. I ran into something similarly because I played a lot of Chronicles and World of Darkness games. And I love most of them. There are very few games in that family that I won't at least consider showing up for, depending on who's running. But I have met people who have played the one game and that's it. You know, either they're vampire mains, they're werewolf mains, they only play changeling, or they only play this edition of changeling. And when you ask them why, it's like, well, I don't want to play the others. But you already know all the lore. You already know all their characters. You know how everything works. Like, yeah, but I'm gonna play this game, and then they'll describe something to me that is absolutely a plot from one of the other spheres. You'd be like, why aren't you playing the game that's meant for it? No, I'm gonna convert it to mine. You're doing
Yeah, I
10
know.
times as much work just to do this.
I know an entire, like, fairly large D&D group that is literally converting Call of Cthulhu adventures one at a time to 5th edition.
That
Now,
sounds exhausting.
none of them,
Yeah, that doesn't
none
sound.
of them
Why?
had ever played 5e, except the GM, had never played 5e until this time they got together to game. So it literally would have been just as easy to teach them Call of Cthulhu as it would have been to
Probably
teach them
easier.
5e. But for some reason, he converted the game to 5e and taught them that.
It's the phrase that I've used to describe it is if you want to win a stock car race, don't try to modify a minivan. It's not meant for that.
And I think that's what frustrates me so much is that there are things that D&D and especially 5th edition are just not meant for. And this need to cram everything into this, everything must be D20. The number of people who come to me and say, "Hey, I'm developing a game because I'm tired of playing 5e," and then what they hand me is 5e with like an extra step so that it's not 5e anymore. It's now
I
it's now
will
even
say,
more complicated and has like more.
yeah, I will say
Yeah.
part of this we can lay at the feet of Wizards to bring it back to recent history. Of the OGL being what it was made them the main game. And
Hmm.
they had an entire ecosystem of people converting every single possible thing to first, like, 3rd edition, 3.5. Then they didn't have enough time to do it for 4th edition, but for 5th edition, same thing happened. It was, I don't remember, it might have been you, it might have been somebody else I was talking to about this, but it was one of those of if you went to a publisher, even a smaller publisher, be like, hey, I have an idea for like a fantasy game. The first question is always, can we do a 5e port of it? Because if we can't, nobody's going to buy it. And
Well,
like,
I
yeah,
don't
because
think
5th
that's
edition,
true
yeah,
anymore right now. I think there
it's
are
yeah,
people on the lookout. I mean, I have an
it's
audience
less
because there are
true now.
people on the lookout for something other than 5e. And if
Right,
somebody shows
it's
up
yeah.
saying, "Here's how my game is like 5e," they leave.
And I had that happen with Army Men because I could not have predicted that Wizards was going to blow everything up and violate the peace treaty the way they did. But like up until that point, like that was very much true. Of even looking back at the stuff that I had released, in Pathfinder and in 5th edition, or in 5e and in Castles and Crusades, or whatever other game it was. The 5e one always doubled the sales, no matter what it was, which meant that that was the one folks had the recognition for, or that was the one they played, or whatever it was. If there were two versions of the thing, that was the one they always got. And that may not be the thing now. I've been focusing much more on general stuff since that whole kerfuffle because I don't trust Wizards. But it was a let me think. How long was the OGL in place? 20, 25 years, something like that.
I mean, it's
I
It
still
was
want
a
to
there
really
say
long
today.
time.
at least
Yeah,
20.
it still exists, but like at the time it had been about 20, 25 years, something like that. And that had been the economic driver, which means that that's what so many players ended up getting stuff for. So even though there were independent games, there were other systems, there was a lot of other stuff people could buy. So many companies focused on doing the Dungeons and Dragons ports, trying to court that audience and that's what propped Wizards up so much. And then they just kind of kicked out the load-bearing wall, and we're still sort of seeing the ripples of that.
Yeah,
See,
this was disappointing. The Fantasy Star
That's
RPG,
unfortunate.
because it is just 5e with the serial numbers filed off.
Boo.
you did a review on that recently, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And you took a lot of crap for it, I think.
Probably. Usually, when I'm critical of something that people love, even if it's the setting that they love, they tend to get antsy.
I don't know. I feel like 5e could have been good, except that there seems to be this desire to add more races and more classes and more. It doesn't want to do what it does well. It just wants to be.
Well, that's
That's
how it's
yeah.
designed. Yeah, it's designed
Yeah,
to be
that's the money
modular.
machine.
So yeah, so that you can keep selling new crap to people.
It was a thing that I noticed, and yeah, that selling the same, yeah, not even new crap, selling the same old crap to people with a new title. Of it was, we've all seen the edition changes, and we listed off how many there were. But I remember it hasn't happened again, which makes me think that the larder is empty. But for so many years, I'd have friends who were big 5e players. I would play every now and again, but I wasn't. Yeah, I would keep up on it professionally, but not for fun. And they would tell me, "Oh my God, they just dropped this new thing," and they describe it to me. I'm like, "Really? That sounds like the Artificer from 3.5." They're like, "How'd you
Mhm.
know that's what it was?" I'm like, "Oh God, okay." So they're just re-releasing the same old thing again. Awesome. And then I looked back at it, and the timeline was such that they had kept it back for so long. The people who are playing 5e now, particularly with the explosions from Critical Role and bringing in the whole new generation and all of that had happened, they didn't know about the other stuff. And even though they had the ability to dig back and look at it previously, they didn't, because why would you? Nobody's playing the older stuff, so we're not gonna spend money at Drive Through RPG to download it. We're not gonna and a lot of them didn't have an older brother with all the old books in his room or whatnot.
It's the same logic as, remaking the same movies every 20 years.
And they keep doing it for money. But it was another thing of I was going somewhere with that, and I had a thought, and then it tried to flee. Nope, it's gone.
I've been doing that all night. Don't worry about it.
That's fair.
Um,
Oh, I remembered. It was the comments on Harry Potter brought it back to me. It's a very, and it's to tie things back to other stuff as to preferred games and favorites and whatnot, because we've seen like there's stuff that certain editions of Dungeons and Dragons does really well. There's stuff it doesn't do really well. And there's usually other games that tried an idea and they tried to figure out a way to snarf it over here to get part of that audience. It's one of those things where if you see a certain concept in fantasy or you see a certain idea in novels or movies or books, usually whatever one it is that has the biggest cultural impact is the one people associate with that thing. And the good example that came to my mind was Harry Potter, because I remember when I was a child and it was getting really big, so many of my mom's friends and other people like tried to get it for me, but I had read so many of the other school books that it was kind of drawing on. I'd read so many of the other books where we had warlocks apprentices and secret schools and parallel dimensions, and I'm like, this isn't really that great. I don't know what you all think is amazing about it. And the more people I talk to about it, the more people I realize like they weren't readers. They were not very
Mhm.
genre savvy. So this was the first time they had seen that idea, and that's what captivated them because they didn't have anything else to compare it to. And I think that 5th edition has the same thing. If so many people, as you mentioned, had played 5th edition, they played nothing else because this was their first impression. And they might be cognizantly aware there are other games out there, or other games that do things similarly and very dissimilarly, but this is always going to be that first love, and something has to happen to sort of jostle them out of that place and make them look at other stuff, or they have to be naturally curious and think, well, I enjoyed this, but my friends are burnt out with it. What else is in that aisle?
See, that is so weird to me because, as far as I'm concerned, like, I love, ribeyes. They're like my favorite food. But man, I could never eat a ribeye every meal, every day, all the time. Like, sometimes I want lasagna.
Yeah, nerd folks are capable of eating the same meal every day, all day for years.
Oh, I could eat
Yes.
pizza every day.
That's fair.
And,
Could
Right,
you at least get
but
different
except that you're
toppings on it?
lactose intolerant. You don't even like cheese.
Uh,
yeah,
Or does
Yeah,
cheese
but
not like him?
but
it,
it's different. It's not just cheese at that point.
but I think that's a good point. There's different toppings, right? So
I,
pizza can be
I
a
don't really
ham,
like toppings though. I don't like things.
Yeah,
but
Matt is the fussiest eater in the universe.
Ooh, actually, I have found somebody who's fussier than me, which is shocking. I mean, first of all, my dad is actually fussier than I am, but a friend of mine, the only thing he'll just get chicken fingers at any restaurant, and
but
I'm like,
chickens don't have fingers.
It's
It's a
The
weird
issue,
American
Even
mutation.
I'm
Don't
not
worry
that
about
mad.
the issue, Matt, is that there is no rhyme or reason to what you will eat and what you won't. You
Nope.
won't eat cheese on in or on anything except pizza, and then you will only eat cheese pizza.
I like bacon pizza.
Okay, well, you once told me the only thing that you would eat was cheese
Some,
pizza. So
sometimes, if I'm feeling really frisky, I'll get a pepperoni pizza.
What I
let's
was trying to
let's
say is that maybe pizza is sufficiently different each time because you can have different toppings, right? So
Uh,
maybe just playing D&D is just different enough because every time you play, different things happening, different monsters, different locations. Maybe that's just sufficiently different for some people.
Yeah,
or
this one's
maybe
got a
they're all
stuffed
as
crust.
finicky and eater as Matt, and they only want cheese pizza all the time.
although,
There are
when
those.
it comes
I
to
ran into
when
a
it
guy
comes to
one time
gaming, I'm not
at.
that finicky. That's why I love conventions because I'll
Uh,
sign up for
I was I
angry
was
stuff.
I was waiting for Rachel to do this.
No.
No, I
Uh-uh.
ran into a gentleman at Gamehole Con my first year there, and he came over to the booth I was helping man, and just looked over as I was, "Do you have anything for first edition?" We're like, "No, sir, no, we don't." It's like, "All right," and then he just walked off, and I was very confused. And then he came back around. I asked him to clarify, and it's like he played first edition D&D, and he played it when it first came out, and that was it. He would play no other games ever, and he was like in his 70s, 80s. So for just decades, that's the only game he would ever touch. Didn't want to try anything else. Had no interest in anything else. If you weren't selling first ed D&D, he wasn't interested.
I mean, I guess in that case you could make the argument that there just weren't any other options for so long.
He was like, "But you're
Um,
at a gaming convention.
well, there is that.
The games are free. Try some."
There is that. I don't
It's
know.
a very odd place to have that opinion.
I think as far as indie games go, um, there is a certain amount of laziness on the part of indie creators as well, because one of the whole it's easier to market is what I hear a lot. You know,
Maybe
if I
now.
can if I relate it to things people are already familiar with, then it's easier to sell.
That is very true.
But the largest possible audience for your game are people who have never played a role playing game. They're just a harder audience to engage. But it's
Because they
easier
don't go
if
to
you
any
have
other
an indie
places.
game that and you don't have to make those comparisons. And you have this huge audience that are possible to engage with, who aren't going to say, "Well, in D&D it gets done this way."
So you're
But it's
saying we
not
should
but it's not easy.
So you're saying we should replace game books with TikToks? Is that what
Oh
you?
god. I
I
don't
think
know
there's some
how you
folks who are
got
doing
that or
that.
what I just said.
Well, it's more accessible to people. You know, reach to an audience who don't have the conventional attention span or interest in
No, no,
RPGs.
no.
So that's,
What I'm saying is stop going for the obvious easy ways to engage people.
hmm.
That it's harder marketing, but you have a greater possible market share if you go for the people that no one else is targeting.
See, I have a related story. So Mrs. Grimm used to do game reviews, mostly for MMOs, right? Prior to Warcraft, there was a plethora of wildly different MMOs that did things in different ways, had different settings, were interesting in different ways. There wasn't a standardized set of features that everyone had. When Warcraft came in and basically took over, everyone immediately pivoted to trying to do things the same way as Warcraft. And so most of those other games just withered away because they weren't going after a niche anymore. There's this dissatisfaction with being small but effective, with being in a niche and being happy with being in a niche. But you can be perfectly happy and you can make a living in a niche. Whereas if you step outside your niche and try to compete with the big boys, you're never ever going to be able to compete on the same level as them. But people just seem to wreck themselves constantly by pursuing that kind of bland larger audience that exists for this whatever is dominant in whatever sphere it might be. But that's capitalism, I suppose.
Well, and we have this weird idea that success means the top of the pile.
Mm.
Somebody told me today that they were upset because they weren't even in the top 200 indie things on Drive-Thru RPG. And I thought, but how many creators are there? Like, is that 200 out of a million?
Yeah, it's more than
Is
you
it,
think, but less than you
if
believe.
if there are 201 creators, then yeah, not being in, the 200, the top 200 would be upsetting. If there are 50,000 that you're comparing yourself to, if you're 201 and you've only written 2 things, that's not bad. Somebody else was telling me, I have this game that I've been running for the local crowd and everybody really loves it, but I don't feel like I'm successful because I can't figure out how to, like, expand outside this local realm. Well, you're happy. You're having a good time. You don't want to do... The reason you can't figure out how to do these things is because you don't want to do these things. So why do you feel like you have to do these things?
Yeah, that one I don't have an answer for.
if you like your local group and you don't want to deal with a larger audience and you don't want to deal with companies and you don't want to deal with all the stuff that, expanding would involve, then why do you feel like you have to? Well, because my game's not successful otherwise. It's successful with the niche that it's found.
But is that success enough to be satisfied with? That's the question.
I have 660 subscribers. I will probably never hit my... I mean, I'm above 500, so I have that. But I'm not anywhere near my 3,000 watch hours. I never will be. Mainly because I actually require sleep, and I've come to the conclusion that being successful on YouTube means never sleeping.
Or you need a lot of other people to help you.
That doesn't even seem to work. It's people who can...
You must also pray to the great Omnissiah, and the algorithm must bless you.
People who can play the same video game for 3 to 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, are the people that get hours in. I don't have that in me. I would like to stream Diablo if I ever get a decent computer system, because I love the game. It was the first game I ever finished, and I never get tired of it. But that's mainly because I want to play Diablo, not because I want to make the algorithm happy. I love my audience. I have a wonderful audience. I don't deal with, like, people in the chat, calling each other names or insulting my panel members, or, the chat isn't moving so fast that I can't interact with them. I get to see the funny comments. I have no desire to be, the critical drinker with 2 million viewers and 13,000 people watching at any given time, half of whom seem to hate everything he does.
There's a lot of that.
I have a niche. I'm happy with my niche. The only thing I'm unhappy about is that I'm surrounded by so much negativity all the time, and I feel like it's a strain to keep it out of my niche.
Because the internet monetizes negativity, unfortunately.
Rachel says she's going to put my playlist on a continuous loop.
Just remember, you can only watch one video per day, so find a good playlist.
But it's I love the things I have about this channel. Yes, I'm tiny. I don't care. Because I'd probably be miserable if I were enormous. I mean, even I'm trying to think. There's so many people I know that started channels after me that have totally blown past me in numbers. And once they broke about 10,000, they started hating it. They're miserable.
I can't even fathom getting to that point.
This is why I deliberately piss off my audience every so often.
Just so you can get rid of some of them?
Yeah.
It's an entire theory. I think there are cults built on that.
keeps the quality left. So I just had a quick poke around about drive-through. There's no figures on how many sellers there are, but you can figure that a lot of people have just uploaded one thing and not done particularly well. But also that other people, especially since the advent of AI, are just churning up any
Ugh.
old crap.
A lot of them are.
I would guess there's at least 10,000 individual creators on there. So in the top 200 out of 10,000 is not bad at all.
Well, he said he wasn't in the top 200, but if he's in the top 300, and he's only done 2 very small games that are very. He's trying to do like Daggerheart stuff, and I keep telling him like Daggerheart is still too new. People haven't gotten through the stuff that they already bought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of them, I really think should be a Shadow Dark game. It looks and feels to me like a Shadow Dark game, not. But he'd never played Shadow Dark, so.
Even Critical Role's not doing Daggerheart.
Huh?
I said even Critical Role's not doing Daggerheart.
It's gotten very popular very quickly. But again, everybody's still using the books they got off the Kickstarter. They're not buying new stuff yet because they haven't gotten through their old stuff yet.
So I'd say as long as you've sold over 50 copies of something, that's a success in the indie space for PDF sales.
Yes, I will say there was to go along with that for Drive-Thru RPG. I want to say it was something like 80% of people don't even hit copper, which is the 50 sales mark.
Yes, I got this figure here somewhere. They have about 86,000 titles that have sold fewer than 50 copies. And only around 11,000 titles have sold at least 50 copies. So,
Woo! I've got at
Well,
least
and
100 of
again,
those.
I think part of that is marketing. I mean, if you just write something, stick it on Drive-Thru RPG, and then think you're going to sit back and twiddle your thumbs and wait for people to come to you, that's not going to work.
Marketing is the worst half of the job of being a creator.
Um, it is. I mean, it's an area I'm kind of fascinated with just because there's so much psychology in it. But, it's like we started off this discussion talking about buying the red box because of the art. Well, the quality of the art really doesn't tell you anything about the quality of the game. But
Nope.
how many people how many people here, I am raising my hand, have ever bought a game based solely on the fact that you looked at the cover and said, wow, that art's really cool?
That's why I own a copy
100%.
of Dreams and Magic Suckered Me, and I will forever be mad about it.
I have read games that have terrible art because the person was a writer, not an artist. The
You got a
the
free
game is
copy with
great.
no art.
Huh?
It was, I want to say it was Morkborg. Usually sells itself on the art, but they gave you a free copy, which was the game with no art, because the art's what everybody loves.
But yeah, there are games that have very cool art that the game is terrible, and I was like, why didn't you just make an art book? And then there are games that are, a good balance, but you never really know just looking at the cover. Though I have, said several times now that I've decided that if there's a pastel cover with a group of heroes posing, and, doing their best to look like superheroes, that game is probably not for me. So I will probably never pick up Daggerheart ever.
But what about Mutants and Masterminds?
But it seems to be a very recent thing. That you get like a whole bunch of like pastel purple covers. And
As far as
that's
the
one
art
of
goes, that is a fairly recent development.
that is one of the reasons that I think of it as a superhero game these days, is because they're all standing there in what I would consider to be comic book, posing, whereas the old art used to be very action oriented, the warrior facing the dragon and I don't know. And I think Mutants and Masterminds wasn't pastel, was it?
No, it wasn't. It's just that I just find it very amusing that there are superhero games out there, but for some reason people won't play them.
I have friends that absolutely love superhero games. I loathe them. So
I still got to try out Necessary Evil just because I love the premise.
I I also do not like Superman, so I am the ultimate of the anti.
Yes.
Uh,
I have a
prob-
I have a guy who used to work in marketing who frequently comments on my channel, and he thinks the slide into the kind of pastel, non-action oriented imagery is because they're trying to just appeal to the broadest possible demographic, and apparently bold colors and things upset some people. So he thinks that's the reason.
It was on the note of marketing and the amazing turns it takes. It's a thing that because as I've speaking of Games Workshop, I have been digging into all sorts of 40k history, and one of the weird things I find is why they made the Ultramarines the face of it is because blue is eye catching. Is it was almost the Crimson Fists because they're a very similar blue, but they didn't want to do like a smaller faction than like a full chapter. And it's not because of the lore, it's not because they thought they were more interesting, it's not because they had cooler art, it's this color tests better, they're the ones we're going to put on all the posters.
there's
And whether or
also
not it worked.
there's also the fact that superhero colors used to be bold primary colors, because that was what we thought of as superhero colors. Like that's red, white, blue, yellow. Those were the colors. But what it means to be a superhero has really changed. I remember I used to work with this guy who never actually read comics and never actually watched superhero movies, but he would base all of his therapeutic stuff on how being a superhero wasn't really about self sacrifice for other people, it was about being selfish and true to yourself.
I didn't know
Um,
you knew Zack Snyder.
And well, this was many years ago.
Yeah.
And I was horrified, and I was like, "You don't know anything about superheroes. This isn't. This is exactly the opposite of what being a superhero is about." Except I have come to realize that he was just ahead of his time, and that really has become kind of the thing that being a superhero is about being the main character, not about being a hero.
To be fair, Steve Ditko was kind of there in the in the 60s and continued in that direction with his libertarian philosophy.
There was a
You're not wrong.
I am a I am a big Babylon 5 fan. And one of my favorite episodes is one that most people don't even remember. Comes the Inquisitor. And in the episode, the Inquisitor threatens to kill Sheridan in front of Delenn if she doesn't sacrifice her life for him. And she says, well, then take me. And he says, but you have a destiny. Like, you're the chosen one. And she says, then somebody else will have to rise up and take my place, because this is my cause, this is life. And he said, then you are the right person in the right place at the right time, because this is what it really means, not heroes and armies and the acclaim of millions, but being willing to sacrifice your life for one person alone in the dark when no one will ever know. And I think we have really gotten to the idea, virtue signaling is the thing these days. And I think that's really infected our outlook on what it means to be heroic. Is do people see you being heroic?
As the counterpoint of that just reminds me of I think it was Alan Moore. That's who I'm thinking of, and just his statement of Rorschach, and just having that moment of like this is the horrible juvenile fantasy that you can solve the world by punching people in the face, and America just losing their minds over it and how amazing it is, and he's just standing over there, just like, what is wrong with all of you? So I gave you the worst thing I could think of, and you're heralding him as a god. But yeah, there is that question of like what power fantasy do people want? What drives them? And when so I can't remember what the specific instance was, but you had just preachers delivering the Sermon on the Mount word for word, and people in the audience getting mad about it because they didn't want to hear about self-sacrifice and helping people. That wasn't the message that they came to church for some reason. But a similar thing with heroes of lots of we're starting to see a little bit of a backswing now, which I think is interesting. But just the idea of self-sacrificing, of protecting people, of doing all of that was just not cool for a really long time. Of you had to be edgy and help people by accident, or because it played into some Machiavellian thing you had, or you had to be a deeply damaged individual, which for those of us who've played large amounts of Ravenloft, that tends to draw that crowd.
It's
But it's one of
interesting
the
because in British comics and British comics writers, I don't think we've ever trusted superheroes. We're always
nor should you.
deeply cynical about them. You think of Alan
A lot
Moore's
of them, yeah.
run on Captain Britain was quite cynical, and anything else superheroic he's done ever. Warren Ellis's superhero material on Stormwatch, Planetary, The Authority, all deeply cynical. The Boys, again, British writer.
Judge Dredd.
Deep, yeah. I mean, he's not really a superhero, but
Well,
yeah,
it's
but
more
it's
of a
the same
satire, but
thing.
yes.
Yeah, very definitely a satire. Martial law as well. Yeah,
That's the one I was trying to remember.
we do not trust superheroes.
Um, I find the superest of superheroes to be boring. Um, everyone hated Hawkeye in the Avengers because they're like, yeah, he's a guy with a bow. He was my favorite Avenger in that movie because Thor can take a blow that knocks him through a wall. Captain America can take a blow that knocks him through a wall. Uh, Tony can fall from outer space and not die. And yet Hawkeye steps up knowing that one of those hits is going to kill him because
His
it's the
real
right thing.
superpower is having a functioning family.
Oh yeah, somebody said once, if you were going to be an Avenger, which one would you be? And I said Hawkeye because he's the only one that has a wife that loves him and a kids,
And
and
kids that
and no
respect him and miss him when he's gone.
and no relationship drama.
Yeah, and a positive workplace relationship with at least one other person.
It was really funny because the whole conversation came to a screaming halt, and they were like, oh yeah, that's a good point." They were all thinking about the powers. So it's like, but yeah, the fact that he's, like Rachel says, he's just a guy, who's constantly taking on gods and cosmic horrors because it's the right thing to do, even though any single one of them could wipe him out in one shot. Um, and he's willing, even with a wife and kids, he's willing to take that risk. I mean, how many other people would be like, "I have a wife, I can't do this"? But anyway, we are kind of wrapping up here. Final thoughts, well, we'll do final thoughts real quick, and then we'll do anything people want to plug.
Final thought is that I really hope we're finally getting to the end of the D&D 5e bubble and we can get some folks to play some other stuff with enthusiasm. And just, if anyone is listening to this and stayed this long and you've only ever played the one game, please try other stuff. There's a lot of indie designers out there making fun things, and we would all love to show you like our greatest of treasures.
If you only have $5, Grim has a game for you. I liked Hamster's comment about if you can afford the beer, you can afford the game.
Beer
Just
and
start
pretzels
giving
game.
away
You don't even
the
need the pretzels.
yeah. We should start giving away the game with beer.
Genius.
I mean, it worked for Crown Royal. I mean, it's a very expensive dice bag with a free bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, it's also a good way around regulations at some conventions and things where they won't let you sell booze. So you sell the game and you give away the booze with it for free. So
Ah.
Marketing.
yeah.
Eraser, do we have a link for Neil's game and for Postmortem Studios, please? If you could get those up. Grim, final thoughts?
I don't think we can isolate power creep from the other factors that are going on. The shift in power from the GM to the players, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's part of this whole complex. The amount of self-insert that goes on, the shift to narrative first gaming rather than emergent story. It's all part of the same complex interplay of things. But tastes change. People did reach out a little bit during the OGL crisis. They may yet, um, as D&D continues to become bland and genericized. I guess we'll find out. I hope so. When D&D does badly, the rest of us tend to do better. I tend to find it's great for getting people into the hobby, but not so great at introducing them to other ideas and things. So I'm hopeful on that score.
Matt?
I mean, fuck you. I like my power creep. But in all seriousness, I don't know. It usually allows me to make more interesting and more powerful villains for my players to tackle. So, but
So
yeah,
my question then becomes, why not just play a superhero game?
because I don't want to play superheroes. I want to play fantasy. I
You're
want my
you're playing superheroes. I think that's
Yeah, but I want the knights and all that jazz. I want my elves, my orcs, dwarvens. You know,
What
um
if you played superheroes at a Ren fair?
it's I could probably get behind that. But no,
I think that's how we got the Black Knight.
in all seriousness, though, I mean, I love playing superhero games too. Don't get me wrong; it's just different genre. But I don't know. I like it all. I like all games. I'm not gonna poo poo any of them.
I was going to say you like Numenera, so it's not like you haven't ever tried anything.
Nope. I mean, my two favorite games are Numenera and Stars Without Number. And if I could actually get around to actually playing Birthright, I'd probably absolutely love that.
It's too bad Historian didn't make it. I think he runs what? At Stars Without Number?
Ashes.
Ash. Oh, okay.
Oh, Ashes done with
Yeah.
Um,
right
Nice.
there.
the other game you might like is Jason Vey, who works for Troll Lord Games, also owns Elflair Games, and he has a game called space Wasteland, maybe. I'm gonna have to look this up now. Um, it is you basically are a hero in the time of like the proto-humans that made up the legends we have now. So basically you play Hercules and some of the minor
Gilgamesh and
gods and
etc.
things like that. So you basically play Greek mythology fighting Cthulhu monsters.
I mean, that absolutely sounds in my wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was thinking that you would. It seems like
Yeah.
something that you would really like. Um,
Wasted Lands.
yes, thank you.
Oh, I have that book somewhere.
Well, that was a good call on my part then.
Yep. I've never played it, but it's. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was a Kickstarter that I did a bit ago.
His books are really lovely too. I have a texture thing, and the printing on his books is all fuzzy. Um, so yeah, I'm not saying that like super powered games are necessarily not for anyone. I'm just saying that D&D definitely did not start there. And I think other systems do it better. Um, all right, I want to thank everyone for coming. Grim, thank you again for filling in last minute. Chat, thank you very much for being here. Neil, anything you want to plug?
If folks are looking for something that is technically 5e, but is just weird, wonky, and unusual, check out Army Men. And if you're willing to sidestep back into Pathfinder for power creep, check out Sundara Dawn of a New Age. It's a setting I'm still releasing stuff for.
You have your other totally unique stuff too, right?
I have a little bit of everything at this point. I think I've contributed to almost every. About half of the community creation platforms have at least one thing with my name on them at this point. I have not yet done Pugmire. I haven't done. It's post-apocalyptic fantasy after the War of the Gods. I can't remember its name. I want to say it's Shattered Lands. That sounds right. And there's like one or two others I want to hit, but most of the others I've been doing stuff for.
Nice. Grim, what are you up to these days?
Bits and pieces of everything, but nothing quite seems to be coalescing. So you can check out my entire backlog of, well, not the right word.
Catalog?
Yes, back catalogue. Sorry, it is late and I have
It is
ingested
very late.
medication. Yes, so you can check all that on my website and you'll probably find something you might like. And my YouTube channel always needs more subs until I decide to get rid of you.
Yeah, one of my top 5, if I'm ever not broke again, is your zombie. I've been looking for a decent zombie game, and yours is on my wish list if I ever am not broke again. um, Mainly because I also really like the idea of a historical zombie game. Well, Matt, anything you would like to plug? Doesn't have to be yours. Good television show? Game
New
game we
Kickstarter?
haven't he- game
Oh
we haven't
man,
heard of?
hold on. Talking about new television shows. If anybody has subscribed to HBO, The Chair Company is phenomenal.
How have I not even heard that name?
It yeah. I can't. It's with Tim Robinson. He does the sketch show. I think you should leave. It's like him. Uh, he works for this company that manages malls or builds malls or something. And during a presentation, a chair breaks that he's sitting on. So now he's trying to find the company that made the chair. But it's like this super suspense thing that like the company doesn't really exist, and there people are threatening him. But it's super silly, and I love it.
It seems like somebody tried to make a television show out of the Big Lebowski.
Like it's legit. Like he had an idea for like a sketch for about 5 minutes, and they somehow convinced HBO to do a full season on it.
Okay,
Yeah, there we go. That's my plug.
everyone has their thing. I mean, I am just happy that somebody talked about a television show they were happy about instead of how much they hate the Rings of Power.
Oh man, I could go on for days about shows I can't effing stand, but
Yeah,
nope.
let's not do that. Positivity. Um. All right. What am I doing? I am trying to work on my video for hashtag the book is better for Watership Down. Except that I seem to have lost my copy of Watership Down.
Oh no.
I live near Watership Down.
Really?
Yes.
Can you send
It's
me
about
pictures? Because that would be
about
great. It would be a great addition to the video.
I will see what I can do.
Well, neat. Now I'm like totally replotting my. Now I'm totally replotting my script, or at least the visuals of my script. There was something else I was working on. Oh, I was really hoping to do like a top 5 worst Clancy Brown horror movies for Halloween, but I think I'm running out of time on that one.
That is,
And
that is a
really, it
long
was
list
just
to
that I
choose from.
wanted an excuse to watch all the really terrible Clancy Brown horror movies.
Oh, speaking of Clancy Brown, you did inspire me not too long ago to restart watching Earth 2.
I mean, everybody should watch Earth 2.
Ah, so
It is. It's so good.
I was waiting for an announcement of a SpongeBob rewatch, honestly.
oh well, I mean,
One of my favorite
Speaking
memes
of Clancy
is
Brown's
that
lesser known roles.
is somebody said like Clancy Brown has 2 voices, Sexy and Mr. Krabs.
In between those two is Lex Luthor.
yep,
Yeah, I guess there is kind of that, but
there is. I'm not gonna lie, where everybody talks about what's his name being the only Batman, Clancy Brown's my only Lex Luthor. Not gonna lie.
I mean,
New challenge.
Clancy Brown crushes everything. Carnival is Rachel says an excuse to ogle. I mean, watch Clancy Brown. Um, I was once on a stream where the person running the stream was making fun of all the guys that like to rate how attractive actresses are. And so he had a whole bunch of like women on to rate the attractiveness of like male actors. And they were terribly upset when I said that Henry Cavill was not my idea of hot. I said he's a statue, he's fun to look at, but like I wouldn't want to bang him. And they said, so who would be your idea of hot? I was like, Clancy Brown. He doesn't have to bang me either. He just has to talk to me. So at some point I am supposed to do a game review with Emperor Goodwin. Unfortunately, he appears to have booked himself up so solidly that we're having trouble making that happen. But I have a couple of Shadow Dark adventures that are lined up that need to get reviewed. If he's unable to do that, I may have to find a replacement. So anybody who likes Shadow Dark, hit me up. And then next week we are going to do indie presentations for horror movies. We have Liminal Horror coming on, and one I had never heard of before that I'm kind of interested in called Gods of Rock. We'll see how that goes. It seems like it would have to be kind of silly horror, but apparently it is just straight up horror. So, kind of interested to find more on that. Yes, Clancy Brown could read me the dictionary. Yes, Tulsa King, very good. Old Horses, which nobody has talked about at all, also amazing. Focus on the things you like, not the things you don't like.
You mean Slow Horses?
Yes, sorry, Slow Horses.
I love Slow Horses.
Yeah.
Have they remade that for the States then? Or...
I
No,
didn't even know it was a British thing. It has Gary Oldman in it. That's all they had to tell me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they have him being a cranky old git, so it's great fun. So I hope that everyone has a good night, and I hope we will see you back here next week. In case anyone has forgotten, should Yarny not be able to stream at some point, well, basically, when Yarny can't stream at any point, I will be doing a random ramble on naughty role-playing games, so everybody keep your eyes peeled for that. This is my protest to the UK for their stupid ID. Their stupid ID thing. The reason I'm doing it during Yarny's time is that she has almost all UK watchers. We'll see whether or not I can, get myself extradited to, to England. So I hope that everyone has a great night on that note, and happy headbutting.
It's a fucking good.
Eclectic Goat's got videos of indie authors and cinema love, a passion for the weird and the strange. She's snappily dressed and only slightly deranged. Come and meet the Eclectic Goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy headbutting, come join the herd. Shows might be a little improper. We've got real zombie, fake whizzes the otter, pizza in one hoof, glass in the other, deciding which role-playing games we will cover. Come and meet the Eclectic Goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy headbutting, come join the herd. Got a thing for black and white screens, crappy horror with low budget scenes. Choose on the history, spits out the lore. Time for another whiskey pour. Come and meet the Eclectic Goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy headbutting, come join the